Thank you, Pastor Cindy. So, I have a lot going on. Here's my voice. It's just starting to come back. Yesterday, I was curious if I was going to be able to talk today at all. And this morning, I gave serious consideration to telling Pastor Mike that the notes were there, everything was prepared, good luck. But that just didn't feel right. I don't think it feels right to you. This is the first he's hearing that I considered that. So there's probably a big news flash running across his face right now as he figures out that could possibly happen one day. So we've been working through this verse in Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. And for the last, I think this is week number 6 of the Surrender series. We've been working with this verse, but we've been working with a WordPress kind of pick your verbiage there kind of passage. Instead today I'll give you the straight NIV. So if you're trying to follow along, that's the NIV version today. That's what I call the Surrender version. Nothing. Okay. I figured with a big King James version crowd that you would appreciate the NIV being called the Surrender version. But no. Okay, follow along with me. This may be the first time you've ever heard this version. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. Now let me tell you some places that I've battled this week with this. It says here that I'm supposed to offer my body as a living sacrifice. Every day this week I've told my children and my wife, if today is my last day on earth, know these things here. Be prepared to do this, and then this, and then this. I told Pastor Mike, if I don't make it through the week, promise me that Pastor Rebecca will always have a job and a place to live. It has been that kind of week for me. If you notice that it's a little bit cooler this week in here, it's because I turned the air way down. There's a reason for it. At 74 degrees, I found this to be true this week, I began to cough and sound like a seal. If I do get hot, you'll get to hear that, and you'll wonder, is he going to die right here on the stage for us today? This is why I asked these questions. So I asked the question of God this week, am I going to be a living sacrifice or a deceased sacrifice this week? Because when you have a sinus infection that goes into your eyes, that causes you to not be able to see, it's concerning. And then when that becomes a drip and a cough and a horrible, horrible, horrible cough that keeps you awake, and let's be honest, it kept the whole house awake. Because it was one of those deep, dry, I don't think he's going to make it kind of coughs. Relationships have to be built on so much more than that. See, about the same time that Pastor Mike and I began our friendship walk, I started to have a friendship walk with someone else. And over the years of me telling the truth to both of these men at the same time and in the same way, Mike has followed along and seen what I was telling him was truth. Even if it was 5 a.m. in the morning and he wanted to go to sleep, he still knew it was truth, and he was willing to listen to it. Not truth he wanted to hear, but knew it was truth. But able to identify. This other person, unable to identify truth and grab onto it. That relationship is gone by the side. I still get a text message from that person about every 90 days, but that's about as far as our relationship goes. It's fizzled, and it's basically dead. See, I would say that each of you would be able to grab at least a relationship on each side of that. Someone that you poured life into that is followed along and seen truth and been changed by it, and someone who has been unwilling to embrace truth. Now, I'm going to trick you with that word truth because we all have our own definition of what truth is. It's 2018. You can have your own version of truth, and you can be whatever you want to be. I heard someone this week that said they've decided they want to be a unicorn, and they're wearing a unicorn head the rest of their life. You laugh, that's a real thing. That's a real thing. Someone decided this week they're going to be a unicorn. I obviously had the question, are you going to be a boy or a girl unicorn? I mean, the species may... Never mind. Not as ready to laugh at that part of it. Okay. So, I want to walk you through a little bit further in Romans chapter 12. So if you follow along with me, I want to hit, I think I'm going to go 6 or 8 verses into here. Starting at verse 3. For by the grace given me, I say to every one of you, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each one of you. For just as each of us has one body with many members, and these members do not all have the same function, so in Christ, we, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. We have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophecy, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it's teaching, then teach. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. If it is giving, then give generously. If it is to lead, do it diligently. If it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully. This is the basis of true surrender. I think I hit something over here. I'm going to walk away from it because I'm going to let that simmer. In other words, we need to see ourselves as we actually are. Not have this false idea of who we think we are, or who we wish we could be, or what we most desire to be, but instead to look in the mirror and see ourselves as God sees us and be that. Be that. It's laid out plainly in Scripture for us that if you have these gifts, then do these things. It's not a mystery to be solved. If you have the ability to teach, it says, be a monkey. Isn't that what it said? No, it said teach. It says, if you have the ability to lead, do so diligently. Don't fall apart when it gets tough. Find out what you are and be it. One of the armed forces, and I'm drawing a blank on which one, used to have a commercial on that said, "Be all you can be." Figured somebody was going to help me with that, right? Army. Okay, so the Army had when Sandy cuts it, I'm going to hope that Pastor Sandy, you got me, cut that part where I didn't know. So the Army had this slogan that said, "Be all you can be." What they meant was, when you sign up, we're going to tell you what you're going to be, and that's what you're going to be. You're going to be that until the day you leave here. If you're this, you're going to be that. But they don't tell you that, because nobody would do it. But instead, we join the ranks with Christ. We join side by side with each other as members of one body, and we know what we're supposed to be. We come in, we have our assignments in the back, we volunteered for what we're going to do, and then we realize that we don't want to hand out bulletins today, we want to make coffee. And we go make coffee instead. And now nobody's handing out bulletins. Be what we're supposed to be, right? We have the things that we've said that we are, so we're going to be them. See, I think that change of heart is where things change the way we relate to each other. So you have to have this change of heart in a practical way, in that when we surrender to God, we do so deeply. And then when we do that, we can surrender to others deeply. We have to figure out this order. And everyone struggles with it. I'd like to tell you that you're special. You're the only one that struggles with these things. That's what I'm supposed to teach now, that everyone's special. You're all snowflakes. And that no two of you are alike. And everybody gets to be their own special thing, and it's greatness. Somebody's got to change the diapers in the nursery. If you don't think that's an important job, let that slide for a few hours. Yeah, come on, you all have children or grandchildren, except for 3 of them. I have to count. You know what it's like? Those things say 6 to 8 months. They do not last 6 to 8 months on the baby. They don't even last a few hours. Some of you will get that joke later on. See, this matters because holiness can't be experienced by ourselves. None of us. Let me try to be as clear as I can with this. Not a single one of us possesses everything we need to be holy and right with God by ourselves. None of us. So let me tell you, none of you are special. None of you hold that ability. Instead, you require the rest of the body to help you understand where you need to correct. That happens in a lot of different ways. Probably the easiest way that it happens for us, just us being humans, is that we experience change in our life best when we watch somebody else mess up and we say, I'm never going to do that. That's where I'm at. I'm going to fix this now because I saw them really mess it up, and I'm not going to do that. Now, there's a few of us that, and I'll say us because this is the category I fit in, that I will plow along and say they made a mistake because they didn't know what they were doing, and I'm going to get it all done and get it all right, and then it's not until I get knocked to the floor that I'm willing to look up and look around and see, okay, wait a minute, maybe I could have used some help. And then I start asking people, how can I help you do this better? Here's what I've learned. If I get around people who are experts in what I'm trying to do and help them, like truly help them, just work beside them and be whatever they need me to be, that's when I learn the best. See, I can't do that when I'm working with people who are complainers, because I'm not a complainer. I can't do that when I work around people who have excuses, because I don't like excuses. And I struggle with that. That's me. This is just raw. That's what you get. When I'm struggling the most is when I'm pushing forward, trying to do things my own way, and I'm surrounded by people who are complaining and making excuses about why we can't do what we're trying to do. Can you get in your head how that might be hard for someone with my personality? What about you? Do you carry that type of personality around? Oh, I see a couple of you banging your head right now. Try to get this message in there deep. See, it's tempting for us spiritually to do the same thing with surrender. To say, you know what, I can do this surrender thing. I just won't do all the things that I'm not supposed to do and push forward. And it'll be all right. There we go. A little too much. We can push. We can do the surrender thing. Or we can slow down, find God's pace, and walk side by side with the master of the task. See, there's a gap that we don't see. The surrender gap is our distance between us and God. There's another one that we don't see between us and our brothers and sisters, our humanity. Because just as we need to surrender to God, we also need to be able to take a deep breath, wash everything out, and work side by side with our brothers and sisters. They'll tell you a little bit about how surrendering to God produces different things with our humanity. Because I believe that if we only surrender to God, we'll eventually get to a point, not here in this church, but I've seen it in other churches, where people believe that they're holier than everyone else, and they have the moral platitude to be able to tell everybody how they're wrong and how they need to get online and get straightened out. I've never seen it here, but I'm sure that, some other churches you might have attended, you may have been able to see that. The first point that I want to bring to you is that surrender to God produces integrity with others. And integrity is not something you're going to grab a hold of immediately. Integrity takes time. Integrity is the hallmark of relational depth. Because Mike and I can be friends. We can be friends. We can play ball all day long together. No problem. As long as one of us doesn't make an out, we'll be fine. We'll never have a problem. As soon as one of us strikes out, we have a problem. The problem is we're not carrying our weight. The same thing happens if we lack integrity. If a circumstance were to come up and we have a question about the other one, without some sort of integrity set up, some sort of accountability set up, then we have nothing to base our friendship on from that point. Without accountability, integrity falls apart real quickly. It's our wholeness in God's work displayed to others that is our integrity. This becomes kind of a math equation. For those of you that like math, I realize I just put several of you out of the play here, but I needed to reach to a couple of people here. So if we take and we do integrity equals good work over time. Oh, good. So my math people are shaking their head. I get that. And my non-math people are going, why would you do that? There's not a number in that equation. What it means is that integrity is proven out by time. I believe that most people can do the right thing for a short period of time and play a role. I can ask just about anyone in the church, I need you to play a role for a period of 6 weeks. And as long as I'm not asking for the nursery, you're okay with it. Pastor Rebecca does the opposite of that. She says, I need you to play a role in the nursery. Why'd you get up and walk out? No, I knew she was going to leave at that point. If we're not willing to give time to our relationships to prove out our integrity, then what we will instead do is reinforce negative behavior over time. What we end up with there is a lack of integrity and a lack of respect that virtually tears apart relationships. I was glad she was going to be out of the room for this part. I know she'll watch it back on video later today, and I'll jump later. It'll be okay. Husbands, if you lack integrity in your marriage, it will decline. If you decide that, you know what, it's been a long time since I felt the fresh and newness of relationship, maybe someone else would like to have a fresh relationship with me. You'll lose not only integrity, you'll lose everything. The same is true with our friendships. If we lose our integrity, we really have lost everything. And if we lose our PowerPoint, we quickly lose everything. It's important for us to identify the roadblocks in our integrity. I'm much more comfortable saying that there's roadblocks to integrity than to say that there's excuses not to have integrity. It's okay if you have a roadblock to integrity. You just got to figure it out. Got to see it for what it is and understand that if it's not changed, if you don't get around that roadblock, it's going to continue to cause a problem, and that problem is going to cause you to get where you don't want to go. You can come up with your own roadblocks, I'm sure, but I found it to be true that most people don't want to have the integrity that is found in accountability because they're insecure about themselves. They're afraid of what the other person might find, or they've been hiding some sin. Some tiny thing that they've kept over in the corner, and it's just for them, and it's just hidden away. I didn't expect another pastor to stand up when I talked about another sin, but there we go. The reality is that accountability and integrity is meant to be so much more than digging around and finding what they're hiding. But in order to have them, you've got to do that first. You want a true friendship with someone, spend months together, digging in deep, finding out where your roadblocks to true surrender are. And if you find that it is a hidden sin or some other insecurity, surrender that and allow God to take care of it. It's important that we would identify these roadblocks. All right. So I've gone as far as I can with my notes. There's 3 more points there. I was hoping maybe they could fix it. There we go. Thank you. I can't see who's back there, but thank you. The second point there is sincerity towards others. The highlight point here is that if we can't be sincere with others, then we lose that relational integrity. Sincerity, honesty is a hallmark to relational depth. It's the result of a thorough self-examination to really know yourself. For the most part, we don't like to do this. This is anti-cultural because it's a lot easier to have someone else figure it out or to decide in ourselves that we are perfect, we are unique, we are better than everyone else, or whatever else. That seems easier. I think this shows up most in the marriage relationship. In the beginning of the relationship, love truly is blind. You can't see the other's faults. As time goes on, you can see the faults. They're very plain. As husband and wife, it's easy to say, right here, I can pick this spot, and every single time that I have something that I want to say, I can come back to this spot, and this spot gives me the ability to stand on a moral high ground and say, at least I didn't do that. Sometimes we do that in our interpersonal relationships, and we don't even recognize it because we'd rather be the kind of honesty to others that is, I'm honest in love. I tell them about their sins and all the ways that they're pushing themselves to hell. I tell them that they shouldn't be with that person, or they shouldn't be doing that thing, and that's the way that I'm honest with them. I would challenge you today, in your honesty with others, to grab a point in your life where you were at the lowest with that person and say, I was wrong here. I was wrong to you. I was wrong to God. I was wrong to all of humanity. The point is, I was wrong. And let that be the basis where you build relationship. At your expense. Because when you're honest with yourself, then you can truly be honest with the people that you have relationships with. See, if we would take time to identify the points at which we're not fully honest with ourselves or with others, and resolve to practice honesty in those circumstances, what we'll find is that honesty becomes very easy from that point. Because at the point where I'm wrong, I can be wrong in a smaller scale on everything else, and it's okay. Digging that hole deep enough to be able to say, this is my depth, and start relationships from that point, to renew relationships from that point, changes everything. It's simple for me to say to Pastor Rebecca that this is your fault, you're wrong, I told you so. That's easy. Oh, and I see some people that are giving me shameful looks. It's easy for you to be honest with yourself. It's easy to point out the fault in someone else. But to stand back and say, I'm wrong. And allow that surrender that you give to God to be surrendered in your relationships, to say, this was my fault. Let me just rip something really raw for you. The first 2 years that we were in ministry, every Sunday on the way to church, we had an argument. Every Sunday. And for a long time we said that was Satan trying to do battle against us. No, that was us being mean and nasty to each other. It was not until we said, you know what? We have things out of order in our life, and that's why we have a problem. It was when I noticed that I had prioritized life as I need to provide for my family, and then be good at this pastor thing and then be a family man. When I noticed that that order was wrong, and we flipped it and said, I need to be a good family man, and then be good at this pastor thing, and then we'll figure out how to provide after that. That God started to do some things in our life. See, until then, we were doing it for us. And then we found that surrender to God leads to placing a priority on other people. This is when, we moved to Orlando because somebody decided to take an interest in us. And we decided when we moved that we were going to change our priority ranking. And that we were going to put family first and finances last. It's then that God began to bless in our family, in our ministry, and then finally in our finances. See, God has that order too. And we want it different. It's safe for us all to say that. You can shake your head. We all want it different. We would love for God to bless our finances first. But that's not how it works. There's an order for a reason. We have to put priority into others before us. If I'm looking out for me, I will never be satisfied. If I'm looking out for others, I will never give enough away. This is where surrender leads us today. To put a priority on other people. I'm going to say today that we take that even further, that not only does that mean that we would share with others generously, but also that we would step out of the way when our spouse begins to excel at something. That we would step out of the way when things start to go right for someone else. And we'd stop putting a fake face on when things start going well for others, and instead be genuinely happy for others' success. Surrender leads us in a whole different way today. Today it leads us in a deep relationship with God and with others. For too long we've done surface level relationships. I'd be willing to say, because I watch things and I notice things, and I'm sure because of that you will all change it on me next week. But I notice where people sit when they come into worship. And I notice who you tend to sit with. And it lets me know who you typically care about. And I wonder, what would it look like if you cared for people on the other side of the church? If you cared that they have whatever it is they need. That you cared enough about the ministries you're not active in to be supportive of them. That you would do whatever it takes to build the kingdom of God. Last week we told you about the LEAP program. We gave you a little taste of what that would look like. The reason we didn't give too much information is because we had no idea if it would be a success or not. We gave you surface level information because we wanted to hold back just a little. Pastor Rebecca's been working on this for years. It's something that she grabbed tidbits from the denomination and tidbits from this research and this research, and she's gathered a program that is nothing short of amazing for the students of West Cypress Hills. And on Thursday, when they went to the open house at the school for Meet the Teacher, They had a goal of signing up 10 to 20 students, and we thought, maybe that's a little bit ambitious, but, just in case it's not overly a bit ambitious, maybe we should set a cap of 50. We won't take more than 50. And we kind of laughed about it. This morning, I'm very proud of Pastor Rebecca and the leading of what Pastor Mike has picked up here in the last 6 weeks or so. That Lee has a waiting list going into the first week of school. When we start talking about caring about other ministries, LEAP is one we got to care about. It's an opportunity that we've been given with no restrictions. We're going in as a church to the public school to care. To care. I wonder if all of our relationships look like that, if we might have wait lists on everything that we do. Wouldn't it be fun to tell people, sorry, you have to go to the other side of the church. We've got no more room in here for you. We love you, and we wish you could stay for this service, but you'll have to just catch the next one because there's no more room here. Sorry, you're 10 minutes late. You're 20 minutes behind getting a seat. Wouldn't that be fun? See, when we prioritize our relationships based on attractiveness or desirability, we miss prioritizing them based on love. I don't even know if there's 2 or 3 or 8 people behind me getting ready to walk out. But I think it's time for the church to identify relationships in our lives that we'd like to give a higher priority. See, we have the power to move people up in our priority list. And we show that out by making changes in our life and how we address them. Today I would encourage you that if you're ready to take a next step in surrender, that you would take that time today to consider how your life would have been different if the relationships of your past had been given priority. And then don't give yourself trouble over the past. The past is the past for a reason. It's gone. But don't make the same mistakes in the future. Give the proper prioritization to the relationships in your life today. So that 5 years from now, when you look, you can see that you were even more open and honest with others. That you had built deep relationships with the people that God graced to walk past you. The reality is, looking back on our past relationships, we can see the mistakes that we made. If we don't change anything, and that's with us, we'll make the same mistakes in the future relationships. Because the only common denominator in the future relationships is us. Would you pray with me? Lord, today we come to you seeking truly deep relationships with you and with the people that you put in front of us. Lord, we ask that you would allow us to have the courage to be bold enough to go with your blessing. To go where you send us, to do what you told us to do, to love those you told us to love. Lord, as we seek to love others, we ask that those relationships would walk hand in hand and mirror our relationship with you. That our relationship with you would be so deep that it can't be shaken, that it can't be toppled over, that it can't be moved. Lord, we ask all of this in Jesus' name.